Hey friends, it's Loree with the blog wagonwheelhomestead.com, and today we are in the basil patch. I'm going to talk to you about how to grow basil from seed to harvest. We're going to harvest some, and I'm also going to take you inside later and show you how to make an amazing basil pesto. Okay, it's like so good. You can use it on so many things in the summer. So basil, I don't know if you know this or not, basil is a superfood. You should try to get as much basil in your diet as you can. It has so many antioxidants and lots of different things in it that are so good for you and so healthy for you. So basil is amazing because if you keep it from going to seed, okay, here's one that's wanting to go to seed. See the little flower on top? You can just pick this off, it's no problem. Or you can pick it down here and that will keep it from going to seed. If you keep basil from going to seed, it will grow all the way up until frost in the fall, okay? So it's a prolific crop. The more every time you harvest it, so I just snip off the stem, like 2 more come up in its place. So it just ends up bushing out and it gets really big and beautiful. It can be used in lots of different dishes and lots of different recipes. Think caprese salad. You can make all different kinds of caprese salad, like with sliced tomatoes and sliced mozzarella and balsamic vinegar. You can mix up like cherry tomatoes. So good. You can put it on pizza. Like I said, pesto is a great way. So you can put that on sandwiches. You can eat it with crackers and chips. You can put it on pasta, on pizza, make like a margarita pizza. So good. So basil is amazing, and it's a great way to get a lot of good stuff in your diet. So it's usually ready to harvest right around the 15th of June for me here in Zone 4B, which is about a month after I plant it outside, which is about a month after I plant it indoors. So what I do is I take my basil seed and I just scatter it on a little bit of soil that I have in a flat, wet it down, let it germinate. When it germinates and the plants get just big enough, right? They start putting on their second set of leaves, which is their first set of true leaves. Then I just take those little plants and I put them into soil blocks, and I'll try to remember to link the video I have for you on how to do soil blocks. So I put them into soil blocks, which lets them grow. I put them under my DIY plant start setup, my plant racks in my basement. They grow under lights. And then as soon as all danger of frost is past, we plant them out in the garden. Basil is a warm weather loving crop. It will not handle any frost, not at all. In fact, if it gets below 40, it can start to turn black on the edges. So you definitely want to grow basil when it's warm. Basil loves to grow next to tomatoes. Okay, so tomatoes, cucumbers, basil, those are all things, they love each other and they love to grow when it's warm. Okay, so we love basil here in our household, but we also sell basil at the grocery store. Basil is not something that the grocery store can easily get and sell to their customers. Like, you know, a lot of times they have cilantro in the fresh food section, parsley. Okay, basil is much harder for them to get. Okay, basil is very easy for me to grow, and I can sell it to the grocery store and they resell it to customers, and it works out really well for all of us. So what I do is I just have these totes, okay? So I just have these totes and I have a little chicken wire mesh thing that I have put in the bottom with a little bit of water. And what I'm gonna do is just bunch this. I usually put 4 or 5 stems in a bunch, and we will put it here in this mesh. I put 15 bunches into a tote. These are just small shoebox totes from the dollar store, and then I'll take it in and they will sell it at the grocery store. One thing, if you do this, you want to make sure to tell them, or even if you're doing this in your own homestead just on a smaller scale, you never want to put basil in the refrigerator. Basil will be comfortable at the same temperature you are comfortable, or even warmer actually. So if you just put basil in water on your counter, it will live for 2 or 3 weeks and you can just use off of it there. So they do the same thing at the grocery store. They just have these totes of basil sitting out in the fresh food department and they just leave them there. They don't put them in the cooler at night. They don't have to mess with them. And you know, within a week they sell a couple tubs of basil here at my small store. There's some places I know that sell a lot more than that, but we live near a small town. So of course, you know, we're only going to sell so much. The only predator that you kind of have to watch out for is the grasshoppers a little bit, but typically there's no other pests that mess with basil. So I have 4 stems of basil here in a little bunch, and I'm just going to take a small little rubber band. I got the big pack of these off of Amazon, and I'm just going to wrap it around twice. Okay, there's my bunch of basil, and I'm just gonna stick it right down here in my tote so that it can reach the water. Okay, and the mesh kind of helps to keep the leaves up out of the water, but it's just important that the stems reach the water. That's all that matters. So, and as long as you keep this picked, like I said, it will produce all the way until frost. So there's been times when it's been so prolifically producing that I've actually just come out, picked some off, and just put it in the compost pile just to keep it producing. The other thing that you can do with basil for like winter time, for preserving it, you can dry it. Okay, you can make your own dried basil. It's so yummy in so many dishes. Okay, then you can use it in your canning, you know, like in your spaghetti sauce and your pizza sauce. It all is going to call for basil. The other thing you can do is you can blend it up in a food processor with a little bit of olive oil and put it in Ziploc bags and just kind of separate it and freeze it. Okay, then you can have chunks, to just pull off a chunk and throw it into soup in the winter. That's a good way. You can also put it in ice cube trays. Okay, you can do the same thing and put it in ice cube trays. So there's lots of ways to preserve basil. You can also make the pesto and freeze it. So when we go inside and I show you how to make pesto, then I'll also show you, you know, how you might want to freeze it. It's so great in the wintertime to open a little jar or a little bag of pesto and just have that fresh summer taste. Helps to get us through those long winter days. So anyway, I'm going to finish harvesting this basil, and later on we will make some pesto. Okay, so to make the pesto, I just used my food processor, and I actually just took this bowl right out to the garden and picked right into it. You can also, you know, bring bunches in, however you want to do it. And I'm making a double batch, but the recipe calls for about 3 cups of basil, okay? And that's gonna give you a nice little batch of pesto. So I will give you the measurements for just one batch, and you can find the recipe on the blog, wagonwheelhomestead.com, and print it off if you would like to do that. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna combine all the ingredients in here except for the oil, okay? So I'm gonna put the basil, the garlic, so you're gonna want 4 to 5 cloves of garlic per batch, okay? And then you're gonna want some salt. So just to taste, I would start with about 1/2 teaspoon per batch, okay? Some salt and some pepper. Okay, and I need to buy more bulk pepper, so I'm just using my pepper shaker, but it will be fine. You don't need a lot of pepper. And then some kind of nuts. Now today, I am using whole cashews from, or what are these? Yeah, whole cashews from Azure Standard, okay? You can use any kind of nuts you want. You're gonna want about 1/3 of a cup per batch. I'm not measuring, I'm just dumping some in. Okay, and then 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. Now, I don't really have Parmesan. I have a lot of homemade cheese in my cheese refrigerator. So this is Asiago. It's about 9 months old, and it is very, very similar to fresh Parmesan. So you can also just buy pre-grated Parmesan at the store. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so you're just gonna put all of that in here and give it a rough chop, and then we're gonna drizzle the olive oil in as it's mixing. And that's what's gonna actually thicken this up, and that's all there is to it. You can put it in the fridge and keep it for up to a week. And tonight we're actually gonna use it on pizza. So it's gonna be super yummy. All right. Okay, you're just gonna wanna blend it to the smoothness and thickness that you desire. And this is what it looks like. So, so good. And so I am gonna use this as a sauce on my pizza. That's how I love it. I like to eat it with crackers, like as a dip, or chips, lots of different ways. And you know, it's raw garlic, it's raw basil. It is so good for you. So this is definitely a summertime treat. So I also wanted to show you guys that you can grow basil on through the winter. So what I did is I just took some basil, I just clipped off some when it was still warm. It's now the middle of November. I just got it like this and I stuck it in some water, and I just changed the water every other day or so until it started to grow roots, okay? The other thing you can do is you can just stick this right down into soil and it will grow roots as well. So let me show you this. By the way, this is just a couple of tubs that my husband rigged up for me. He cut a little handle here on this side. These are just what we call lick tubs, or just plastic tubs. You could do this with a tote, any kind of a pot, and I drilled holes in the bottom of this top one, and then the outside one is solid, of course, so that the water doesn't leak out and ruin my floor. But what I did just the other day, actually, because I wanted a couple more basil plants, is I just broke one of these off, like I was saying to you. And I just dug a hole, stuck this right down, sorry, it's hard to see, right down into that hole. And these are the ones I stuck in the hole, and look, they've rooted and they're growing, okay? So it's the middle of November, and I need to pick this and make pesto. So you can have basil all winter long easily in your house. And this is on my plant rack. So I just have these lights. This is where I start all of my plants in the springtime. It's where I grow all my microgreens to sell at the grocery store. So I just wanted to show you this. You can do this with a lot of different herbs, but certainly with basil. Now, it's going to grow slower in the house because it's not quite as hot as it is outside during the summer. Basil is a heat-loving plant, but you can have basil all winter long, and like that's pretty awesome. So what you don't probably want to do is dig up basil plants from your garden, like the ones that grew all summer, and put the whole plant in here, because what happens is when these plants, as they grow and grow and grow and they get bigger and bigger, they get real woody stems. They kind of get to where it's end of life. It's actually better if you just break off a new shoot and make a new plant, and it's not hard to do. If you don't, if you're watching this and you don't have basil, right, if it's wintertime and you're like, man, I wish I had some basil, get some basil seed. This is Geneva basil. Get some basil seed and plant it. Start it in a little tray, like I show you in this video, and then plant it in a little tray, and once it's big enough, then transplant it in here, and you can keep basil going forever. Like, you'll never have to do it from seed ever again if you do it right. So anyway, I'm gonna have pesto in the middle of winter, and that's so great. So yeah, check out how to set up one of these DIY plant racks. These are just regular shop lights. This is an inexpensive setup. It grows thousands of seedlings for me every year, and then obviously grows a lot of stuff on through the winter as well. So thanks for joining me today as we learned how to grow basil from seed to harvest, how to make pesto, how to preserve basil, and we will see you in the next video.